first album's, of course, always going to be one that is amazingly special to me. I feel like we made sure and put songs on it that I would never, ever, ever, ever get tired of. And I remember the first time I heard the next one that we're going to do, I was kind of worried that I didn't know how people were going to receive it because there was some damage to personal property and things such as that. And flash forward a few albums, and now we're like killing off people. And we took it to a whole new level, but this was always a fun one. Sing along if you know it, if you wanna. You know you wanna. Right now, he's probably slow dancing with a beach blonde tramp, and she's probably getting her sleep. Right now, he's probably buying her some fruity little drink, 'cause she can't shoot a whiskey. Right now, he's probably up behind her with a pool stick, showing her how to shoot a combo. And he don't know. I took my key into the side of his pretty little souped-up four-wheel drive, carved my name into his leather seat.
Hi, good morning. I'm Matt Sunshine, Center for Sales Strategy and CRS board member. A few announcements before we get started. We'd like to thank Big Machine Label Group for their long-standing partnership with CRS. Once again, Big Machine is hosting Friday's Showcase Luncheon at 12 noon in the Broadway Ballroom, featuring performances by Rascal Flatts, Brantley Gilbert, Riley Green, Lauren Jenkins, Noah Shinaki. BMLG President and CEO Scott Borchetta will host the event. We greatly appreciate their commitment to country music, and for countless hits, we can't stop singing. Thanks, Big Machine. We'd like to acknowledge the ACM and St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, who are both longtime friends of CRS. Once again, we are pleased to have them both as sponsors of our New Faces of Country Music show, where CRS will feature the top 5 hottest acts in country radio, voted on by you. We are grateful for their continued support of CRS. I'd like to remind everyone that recordings of the session are available for purchase in the exhibitor hallway next to registration. And please, please, if you're not planning on attending the New Faces of Country Music dinner and show, we ask that you please return your New Faces tickets at the registration desk. Before the session starts, I want to remind everyone to please put your cell phones on silent mode. I'd like to bring up Denise Mesnick to introduce the panel.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. The panel is hosted by the Mentoring and Inspiring Women in Radio Group, and we're very thankful to Bill Main, especially Cherie Latham and the CRS folks for allowing us an opportunity to present broadcast professionals. If you don't know, the MIW Group stands for Mentoring and Inspiring Women in Radio, offshoot from Radio Inc. magazine's Most Influential Women in Radio. We're volunteers committed simply to that mission of mentoring and inspiring. We always say that mentoring is not, it is an equal opportunity experience. So for the gentlemen in the room, thank you for what you do to mentor and inspire. It takes all of us in this room and in the broadcast and music industries to groom the next level of professionals coming behind us. So we are now pleased to welcome to you the amazing broadcast professionals on this stage, some of the best and brightest in the business. They just happen to be accomplished and collaborative women who are MIWs, and who were asked to participate today said, absolutely, sure, what time, what day, I'll be there. That's how we move the industry forward. So thank you, and it's now my pleasure to introduce Erica Farber, President and CEO of the Radio Advertising Bureau.
Thank you, Denise. Good morning. I want to congratulate those of you who are joining us this morning because our topic is pretty important. What does leadership look like in the year 2020, which is going to be here in about an hour and a half. So I could spend the next hour reading everyone's bio, but they are available on your app. These are all 3 incredibly accomplished leaders in our industry. So I'm going to, after brief introductions, we'll get into the conversation, and hopefully we're going to have some time for questions as well. There are 2 mics, so if you do have a burning question and something you want to ask, I would encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. To my right, for those of you who don't know, is Ronnie Millsap. No, I'm kidding. Oh, she took her glasses off. I was kidding.
I mean, I can barely see, so I don't know if they can turn down the lights. That'd be great.
Weezie Kramer is the Chief Operating Officer of Entercom, which, as you know, continues to be in the news and is a fantastic broadcaster and has really taken an incredibly large footprint in the radio industry. So we're excited that you are with us, Weezie, and thank you for that. Sitting in the middle is certainly yeah, let's give her a hand. It's great. Next to Weezie is certainly no stranger to CRS, Kim Guthrie, who she's the president of the Cox Media Group. So Kim oversees not just the broadcast division, but lots of divisions. So Kim, we're thrilled you're here, and congratulations on all the awards that your guys have taken this week, and it's great. So let's give it up for Kim. Got your cheering squad with you, I hear. And last but not least, another great leader who is doing some really great things in the radio industry, the Chief Executive Officer of Neuhoff Media, Beth Neuhoff. Beth?
I just want to say, I leaned over to Kim and I said, the great thing about these lights is we can imagine that it's standing room only out there.
So to get started, you know, we talk about leadership, but I'd like to hear a little bit about your own individual management styles. And Weezie, I'd like to start with you. How would you describe your management style?
It begins with a B. No, just kidding.
Bountiful.
Exactly. Sometimes how you see yourself and how others see you is very different. But I'd like to think that I'm collaborative. I am known as being very tough, but fair. I tend to be immersive and lead from the front. And I like to be really involved with our people, and hopefully, super energetic and very aspirational. So those would be things that I would say, people might say about me.
I just like that. She is certainly not a shrinking violet, I will tell you that. She's a dynamo. Kim?
So I'm just a kid from Iowa, and I think, as you go through your career, people try to turn you into something else and someone else, and you need to work on your executive presence and all of these other things. And I was telling we've got 3 daughters, and I was telling them the other day, I said, probably the thing I'm most proud of, aside from my family and the company and everything else, is just that I'm still the same kid from Iowa. I mean, I try to not use the F-bomb in all groups, but just some. So I've gotten better about that. But I think you want to still be authentic and true to who you really are. And I think if you can do that as a leader, then you're very approachable. And if you're approachable, people will tell you, I think that's a bad idea. Or did you ever think of trying this? And, we've all seen that where you have like a genius with 1,000 helpers, and that is not the way we run our company. The best ideas are always someone else's. They're not mine. I just think I know a good idea when I see it. And I think I really like to surround myself with wonderful people. And I think with our Cox Media Group family, and I do call it a family, we hang out together. We're friends together. It's like the band. We keep the band together. But one of the things I remind them a lot is we're not afraid to make tough decisions. And I think you can run a kind company and also be accountable. And my own mission statement is don't mistake our kindness for weakness, because we'll kill you. Because I think we can be kind, but we still are here to win. And, we're not afraid to fire underperformers and that sort of thing. But it's, to have that high performance culture, you've got to work on it every day and keep describing what it looks like and admitting when you've made a bum hire or whatever, and not being afraid to make tough calls too. So.
You brought up something which we're going to get back to in a minute. You said something that was really interesting. Beth, what about you? How would you describe your leadership?
I would say it's evolving, actually. I probably started out pretty frenetic and came from the rep business, where I first met you a long time ago, which is a pretty aggressive, hardcore spot. And then when I got thrown into the local business, sort of through a really tragic situation, I learned that, dealing with creatives and on-airs is a little bit different than dealing with a sales team full-time. It's a very different group of people. And so what I would say is I've become less frenetic, and my staff would probably say that's not true, but less frenetic and more of a consensus builder and more empathetic, actually, because it's a people business at the end of the day. And if you don't have happy people on your team, you have no product and no sales and no listeners. So I think I'm evolving.
Kim, you said something about, as you have grown up in the business, that people may have said that there are certain things they thought that you should do or you should be reflective of. And I'm just curious, that brings up an interesting conversation. Have you all felt that way, that people wanted you to be something different than what you are? And how do you stay true to yourself when you have very large responsibilities?
I think there's style and substance. You have to have substance, but style, we've all seen that. Style can be very off-putting. If you're really smart, and I think we've seen a lot of super smart people. There's someone we work with that went to Harvard, and he talks about going to Harvard all the time, but he doesn't have good EQ, can't read the room and that sort of thing. So I think I get it that you've got to work on your style a little bit. You can't come in like an unmade bed and whatever. But there's times and places that you should be more professional, or you can let it hang out a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, people want real people, and that's who I resonate with. And when I have a boss that I respect, and I think, well, that's the real authentic guy or gal, I feel like I'm getting the whole package, and they're not hiding something. But I think along my career, I've had people, we love what you've done, but could you just be totally different? Well, no, that's not how I got here, can I just be me? And I also work for a Southern company, and I've had that said to me before. You got to remember, and I ran the Cox reps business in New York, where like the F-bomb is a noun, an adjective, an adverb. So I was like in my glory, like, these people speak my language. This is awesome. And if you were offended by that, you're not going to last long. They'll chew you up and spit you out. But in the South, it's like, bless your heart, and then they insult you after that. But it's like
with the knife in your hand.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just different. Minnesota nice. I lived in Minnesota, same sort of thing. It's like, it's not that I don't like Bob, I just really can't stand him. Like, what? But because you have the little disclaimer up front, it's okay. So I think you have to adapt a little bit to where you work, but at the end of the day, Iowa is, just a square state in the middle of the country, and we don't even have a professional football team, so you kind of just get people who are what they are, and I think I just go back to my roots. I'm just the same person I was back then. But I think along the way, I'm sure you guys have the same story, like, hey, I really didn't like how you said that. You're way too direct, and people don't like their women to be like that. It's like,
I just think that it's evolved. Using that word again, but I think from even when I started in the business, what was expected of a woman was just, you had to fit to that parameter, and in New York, you had to behave a certain way and do a certain thing to get by, and that was what it was. And I think it's becoming more and more as we were respecting others' differences, and we're more about everyone being themselves. I think different leadership styles are far more acceptable now than maybe they were. I don't know. Weezie, you led a sales team back in the...
It's funny because I think of all these stories, and I have a few, but the reality is that I couldn't work for somebody where I couldn't be me, and so I always interviewed people trying to figure out would I fit in with them, and would that organization help feed me in ways that were important to me. So I've always been somebody who's been more motivated by learning than by money. And, so if I could be around people that were smart or strategic or would invest in me or, send me to school or do things like that, it made me happy. And then they also had to know what they were getting, because I am not really politically correct. Luckily, I'm not that far from retirement because I'm not sure I should be making it in my current role. You know, and typically they have someone from legal or HR on my shoulder at any, you know, public events to ensure that I behave the right way. And as to people asking me, you know, be something different, I'm reminded of a story where there was a sales manager who worked for us, and we had the director of sales, or the head GSM, was also a female. And we were in a meeting with him, and he said, you know, a friend of mine asked me the other day, what's it like to work for two women? We go, what'd you say? And he goes, I have no idea. And I thought, wow, that's a great answer. And, you know, so I've always just said, hey, be yourself. And what I think people want is, I do think they want authenticity. I think they want transparency. I think they want people to be real. And we live in a world where there's just so much fake news and lack of trust and, you know, people who are phony baloney. And, you know, there's so much change going on. If people don't know what's happening in their own world and where they work and where they spend so much time, and they can't trust you, then you have complete disengagement. And so, you know, when somebody is who they are, like Kim or Beth or, you know, hopefully me, then people can relate to it, and they appreciate it, even when what they hear isn't always the best news.
So what advice do you have people? Obviously, everyone has a leadership role, no matter what position they're in, but it sort of begs the question about managing up, because not everyone has the opportunity to have a direct relationship every single day with their CEOs or chief operating officers, but we all have a boss. So what advice do you have for us about managing up?
Well, I'll jump in. I think, you know, there's a phrase, kiss up and kick down, and I hate people like that. You know, don't shine me because I can hopefully see through that. But you do cross over from being an individual contributor to being a leader to being a leader of leaders. And if you really want to back into your career, you think, how do I want to end this? Your legacy should be that you put great teams together. It's not really about you, and you've got to learn to delegate, and people learn by doing. And so you've got to look for those kinds of people, and then if you're one of those people, you have to raise your hand and say, I would love to do more than just this. Today I'm this job, but I want to someday be running the company or heading up programming or being a general manager or whatever. So you've got to speak up. No one reads your mind, and I'm going to be really sexist for a moment. Women rarely will raise their hand because they feel like they're not ready. They're never ready. Men always are like, yeah, I can do that. I got it. I know that's 3 jobs heavier than I'm doing now right now, but I can do that. And women are like, oh no, I need to be having 10 more years experience. And so I think we as leaders need to tap some of those people and say, why aren't you throwing your hat in the ring? Mm-hmm. But we can't read your mind. So when someone wants or has ambition to do more, then they need to say, I'm willing to take on more responsibility, even if I don't get paid for it. Leaders don't have to be managers. You can be a leader just being an individual contributor, and that's how you get promoted, where people start coming to you and seeking you out for help and advice. So.
And I think that's natural, actually. Bill Hendrick and I were just talking about this last week, and about how it's just the person who naturally raises their hand that says, you look around the room and they're like, oh, I'd like to help out with that. I mean, it's just that willingness to show an interest and try to help something be better because it's your nature, not because you just want to be a part of that. And you, as a leader, you gravitate towards those people because they are putting themselves in front of you. Mm-hmm. So.
Weezie, you said something interesting
Once.
recently. You were talking about leadership, and because I want to quote this correctly, but someone had told you that good leadership is about culture and managing through change. And I'd like you to elaborate on that, because culture is so important to our environment, and we're all dealing with change.
Yeah, most people know, we went through, a big merger with CBS, and a lot of 2017 was spent teeing it up, and 2018 and now has been spent on both integration and transformation. And I have personally never dealt with more change in my life. And, there have been deals that we've done where, we took over, smaller groups, and, our team had really good systems and process, and it takes a village to do these things, even when they're not that big. And so I was so naive about what this would be like. I thought, we've got this. We're going to kill it, And our team is fantastic, and we've done it a zillion times, and it's been a friggin' nightmare. And that's just, and I'm just being honest about it. I had no idea how hard just the integration piece was. And if you think about the back end of systems and process and lack of information because this system and that system don't talk to each other, and how many people it takes to get on one platform. So you just have that operational piece that you're trying to work through while you're still trying to drive revenues and do your job and everything that goes with what we do every day. But the really, really hard piece has been the people piece. And I thought I was good at that until this experience, because I, had always been close to the people I worked with. I mean, I knew them. I knew their names. We could joke around, like Kim said, it's sort of a team. And I didn't realize how small my world had been until it became, 3-4 times as big as it was. And I couldn't do things and relate to people and be there in all the ways that I'd been before. And I just assumed that people would like me. I'm a likable person. Yeah, that didn't happen. And it wasn't just, I'll trust you until you treat me wrong. It was, I don't trust you at all, and you're going to have to do a lot to gain my trust. And the only way that you can really build trust with people is face to face. You can't do it in conference calls. You can have meetings, but they take time, and it's hard to go across, the entire United States and market by market and get deep. And so that's taken a lot longer. And we just recently had some manager meetings in January, and it was the first time, and this is after a year and a half of trying to build an organization and a team, where I felt for the first time it was one team. Not once did we hear the words legacy Entercom, legacy CBS. And, it really felt like we were coming together, yet probably in reality, we're on the 50-yard line. So that whole concept of managing change, because we're doing things that are going to hopefully be transformational and helpful to everybody in this room. We also are doing integration, and then we're trying to, create an environment where, people want to work, where they can have fun, where they can do good things. And, someone gave me the advice. They said, you'll know you're getting it right when 30 people below you care as passionately as you do. And I thought, wow, I love that. And if you think about that in your own world, in your own sphere, whatever that is, get 30 people below you to just care like you do, and you're going to start winning. So I've learned a lot, and it's been really humbling.
Is there one thing that stands out, and this is really for all of you, and Weezie, you sort of touched on this, that you wish you had known before you got in the positions you're currently in? Beth?
Well, I would say, kind of following up on Weezie's point, we're so much smaller, but culture has always been so fundamental to our little organization. I mean, it's really our core values, how we do things. And even when you're as small as we are and you buy a new market, the assumption that culture will come quickly is completely ignorant, or that your culture will remain the same. So I wish that I knew that, as pretty of a girl at the dance as we thought we were, until we met someone else, we realized, he didn't really want to dance with us that much, So it's been a very interesting experience, and your culture never remains the same, and that's not a bad thing, but you just have to know that.
I'll just go back. You're talking about the future leader and change. You know, anyone can manage through good times. And if you think about what's happening in all of our media businesses, I mean, I have a newspaper, so if you are getting down about radio, take a page out of my book right now. I mean, it's super expensive to just print and deliver. When you think what the newspaper is, you're actually driving it to someone's house. I mean, think of that every day. Imagine if you had like coffee delivered to your house every morning, and if you don't get it by 7 o'clock, you send a really snotty note to the head of the company. That's how my day starts every day. I didn't get my paper, and I'm in wherever, Ohio. So, I'm like, I'm so sorry. Let me look right into that, because there's nothing else I'd like to do right now. So the newspaper business is kind of first canary in the coal mine. You know, I feel like radio's been really hard since 2001, since September 11th. I mean, I was up in New York when that all happened, and I feel like it has not been, quote, easy since then. So we've got, 18 years of being hard. Television's just now rounding the bend and coming into the coal mine with us. So all three of our platforms are going through some different level of change. And I think we are going to have headwinds in this business until we all are dead. So that this is never going to get easy. It's never going to go back to the good old days. And I think that requires a different kind of leader. And it's someone who is accessible and transparent and open. And I think you really judge leaders who go through these times. They're going to be different kinds of leaders than we had when the phone was just ringing and the Brinks truck would back up and just drop off political dollars for television. It doesn't happen like that. So I think that's a different kind of leader today, and it is someone who's maybe been in the trenches or doesn't hide behind their desk. I mean, think of those old offices, and maybe they're still there, where you have to go through the assistant's office to actually get to the leader of the company. I mean, the gatekeeper literally was, keeping the gate, like, you stay away. Do you have an appointment? You can't go in there. Right. That leader, I don't know how that person survives through these times.
Yeah, I used to love when someone would say, so-and-so's on the phone for you, and you'd pick up and say, hey, Bob, and it would be, hold on, I'll get him.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
They're not here anyway, don't worry.
Hopefully no one else got what she just said. Everyone is in positions that they're either hiring people or, I'm going to get you for that, Weezie, that they currently are hiring people or potential to hire someone. What are some of the skills and talents that you look for when you're thinking about bringing in new talent or promoting talent within your organizations? What do you look for? What should people be focused on? Beth?
I think the single greatest talent someone can have is the ability to learn, because I like a generalist, and we can move them through our organization anywhere. If you can learn something, then we'll teach it to you. It's great to have a specific skill if you need an engineer, and that is really important. But anyone else, as long as you have a big brain and you're adaptable, you'll be great with us.
Yeah, we use that term a lot, no more one-trick ponies. I think we've got some markets where we have TV and radio, and we've taken radio talent, and they're out doing like content for OTT for the TV stations, and they're doing like food truck diaries where they go, and they love this. Some of our radio people are the most fun and like, hey, I'd love to do that. I mean, Ashley in the front row, we've put people on the news set, we've thrown people in as experts, and exactly to your point, you've got to kind of be open-minded to try new things. And I will just add one other thing. Positivity is a big deal for me. It's hard enough without you mother effing me every 2 seconds, and I hate that when people are like, do you realize how I see the memo went out today, look at that. Like, God, why don't you just go work somewhere else? Because I don't have time for it. It's so hard already. Can you please go not work here anymore?
They're waiting on their papers in Akron right now. That's
the newspapers.
I didn't hear what you just said, Beth.
They're waiting on their papers in Akron right now.
Why
so
isn't it my
Kim's
driveway?
busy.
But that negativity just sucks the life out of me. It sucks the life out of the hallways. I can't stand it. So people who are positive, good problem solvers, have the discipline to come to work every day and don't call in sick on Monday. I mean, it's like dumb things like that. But the positivity is a big deal because that's the whole cultural piece. And culture eats strategy for breakfast, as they say. I love that line because you can have a great strategy, but nobody's executing it or no one's happy to be there, it's not going to get done properly.
Weezie?
You know, obviously, skills and talent are going to vary by whatever position you're looking for, but to their point, curiosity is a big one. I'm a big believer in people who have a growth mindset and grit, who've demonstrated in their past life or work experiences that they've overcome obstacles and found a way to make things happen. You know, because while we want people who are strategic and have strong business acumen, if you can't find a way to get to a W, it's not going to matter. And I really, really value initiative. Someone that raises their hand and, you know, walks by the trash and picks it up and is not, waiting to be told what to do. Right. So.
I want to do a little bit of a round robin here, so it's just really quick. First thing that comes to your mind, Weezie, we'll start with you. What is the one trait that you feel is the most important leadership quality needed today?
Probably, this is hard. It's hard to say one. I'll just say communication skills. Really important because that encompasses that directness and transparency and all the things that go with it. And you can't over-communicate in this world.
Mm-hmm. Kim?
I think courage. We have to do a lot of hard things and say hard things, and there's a kind way to do it, but I think having the courage to do the thing that needs to be done will really separate good leaders from bad. I was going to say honesty, but you took the communications piece. Courage.
Okay. Beth?
And the word that came to my mind immediately was empathy. And I think that's because if you have to do something hard, that there is another person on the other side of that. And I think there's a way to do those hard things and still be humane.
Mm-hmm. What's your one pet peeve in people that you have worked with or may report to you? Beth, we'll start with you.
We only get one?
I know Kim's.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I think to Kim's point, I mean, it's just the person that just doesn't stop complaining, and you're just like, hey, look, I get it. I'm sorry that we're not big enough to have snacks in the lunchroom and that we didn't put your favorite cracker out this week, but I don't know. I got something else going.
That sounds so empathetic.
So I'm getting a theme here that if people don't realize some of the things that they're asking for actually do get up to the senior leadership of these companies.
I already said it. It's the same thing. You know, we're all trying to row together. And I like a contrarian sometimes who will say, hey, did you think about this or did you think about that? So I don't ever want to make it sound like we're quashing all of that. We need to hear things that are like, you're about to go over the cliff. Did you know that? I mean, nobody wants to be the emperor with no clothes. So we don't really want all these like rah-rah BSers. But you can really take a lot of oxygen out of the room when you're so negative. So that's my pet peeve.
Yeah, boy, it only takes one, doesn't it? It's unbelievable.
I think we're all sort of the same. I hate battery drainers. I hate them. And, bring me somebody who's an energizer and that's not sucking all the oxygen out of the room. And my other thing that I have zero tolerance for is just dishonesty at any level. Zero.
Recruitment is a big issue. And what are you doing within your companies, or is there anything we can learn that you're doing that's working for you to help you find great leadership? Weezie, what are you doing at Entercom?
Crackers.
All kinds of crackers.
Personalized crackers for all our employees. And it's frankly not that expensive. You'd be shocked. And they really appreciate it, Whatever you
alcohol.
want. We got Triscuits, Ritz. No. The recruitment piece, I mean, if you went to every single market and you asked the market, hey, tell me what your key issues are, just give me the top 2 or 3. Recruitment would be on the top 1. And it's really interesting because even markets that say recruitment's hard, there's some that are better at it than others. And if you look at the leadership of the ones who are good at it, you find people that you'd go to work for. So you have to have a recruitment plan. You can't just say recruitment's really hard, no one wants to work here, blah, 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 blah. So you have to have a good plan and someone needs to own it. I'm not going to go through that. We use some recruiting agencies, particularly in the digital side, and they've been really good. And it's expensive, but it's cheaper than hiring people who fog the mirror and getting rid of them in 90 days. And we're bringing in, and usually it's salespeople that we're talking about in the recruitment side. I don't know about you guys, but we're bringing in people with more digital expertise and finding it's easier to coach them on radio or marketing sales or selling integrated multimedia or leveraging data than it is to train radio people. So if you change your mindset about who's available for this job, it becomes far easier. And then we, have some folks really building a better LinkedIn strategy. And, they're far smarter about what they're doing there, but it's very interesting what you can do if you don't have a budget, but you have time and energy to put against it, so.
Kim?
I like to fish in my own pond a lot. I mean, so once you get into Cox, we try to train our people up so that they can be used to do other things. And so, as we recruit just in general, if I talk to college class or whatever, I'll say, there's great companies that have great benefits or big portfolios or whatever. But I would say one thing that our company does differently is we really train and develop our own people. And I would be a graduate of a lot of our own programs. Again, little executive presence goes a long way, but they take, like, you're a little diamond in the rough, and let's see if we can teach you some strategic thinking and design thinking and that sort of thing. So I think we do a really good job of promoting from within, and I think that's what people like to see. There's some high-level jobs that you just don't have someone with that skill set, but a lot of times you do have people right under you that just, you think, wow, I didn't even think that guy could do that job, but let's give it a go, and all of a sudden, we just put someone in a product job who's just been blowing us away at all the great stuff he's doing to do our apps. And again, we're doing newspaper, TV, and radio, and he was right here on our team. And he just said, I think I'd like to do that. Okay. So, but you do have to always be recruiting, and I think today, you can use social media to also, convey your culture, and I think people see that, and it's just kind of a soft sell, but like, wow, they look like they have a lot of fun, look like they hang out, look like they're winning a lot of awards or whatever, they're very successful, I want to be part of that. So that's a kind of a subliminal way to recruit, and I think we do that pretty effectively too.
And I'd say we take fishing in our own pond to a whole new level, because we actually, I'm sorry that Mike Colby's not here with me, but we start in the elementary schools, believe it or not, and we believe recruiting is one-to-one, and the best people we have working in our company grew up listening to our stations. And we have a kid who just became our sales manager in one of our larger markets, who started as an intern at, like 14. Actually 11, but I don't want to say that.
They have
child
labor laws.
I don't know, but really, and the thing that we try, and my friend John David is here, and we talk about this a lot, but when we do things, even if we're in the smallest town, we are show business. And so we have a guy that'll walk into the school, and the kids are just, and that is how we get our employees, because they're not going to move to Decatur, Illinois from New York City.
Are you sure?
They might. Yeah. I've actually been calling some people in New York City. No, not really. Well,
Crackers.
Yeah, exactly. We've got crackers.
I can see it now. Someone is going to go back and say, they said we need to get logos put on our crackers. I know it's going to happen. Again, we have 2 mics. The light is so bright here. If someone has a question, please.
We literally can't see.
We do have one.
I have a question. It's a bit of a philosophical question, but I also think it's appropriate since this is an MIW-sponsored panel. I'm wondering how the 3 of you feel about being referred to as strong female leaders. Oh, that Kim, she's an empowered female leader. Or Beth and Weezie, they are strong women in leadership roles. I'm going to just tell you a quick personal story to put a point on this question and maybe clarify. couple years ago, I was on the alumni council of my alma mater, and we were talking about how to get alumni of color more engaged with the college. Gee, how are we going to accomplish that? And so we talked to some alumni of color and said, well, how would you feel about having a weekend where you come back to campus and it's just for alumni of color? And half of them said, well, I don't want to be segmented like that and be an alumni of color. I just want to be an alumni of this college. So coming back to my question, this is somewhat analogous. How do you feel about sort of being identified by your gender as a leader, as opposed to, look, I'm just a great leader. Yes, I happen to be a woman. So I'm just curious, is that sort of part of who you feel you are as a female leader, or a leader who just happens to be female?
I think most of it, I will speak on behalf of myself, but I had an old boss who said, you know, you're one of the best female broadcasters out there. I was like, okay, so I said, you know, the day that you can actually take the word female out of that compliment, we'll make it a compliment. But what do you mean, one of the best female? Okay, well, one of the four of us. Wow, thanks. So I hate that, and I think, you know, ultimately, my husband and I were talking the other day about, see if I can say this without saying the person's name, but we were trying to build a D&I committee for Cox, like 9 years ago when we formed Cox Enterprises, and I recommended someone, and I said, oh, he would be great from a millennial perspective. We need that on the team, and so I put his name in, and they came back and said, well, you didn't, he's in the room right now, you didn't tell me he was also Asian. I said, well, I didn't think of him as Asian. I thought of him as just really good, and he's young, and so I felt like, and I think that's the point. I don't think, oh, Tim Clark, the Asian programmer. You know, I think, actually the best. Can I tell this story? So, a couple years ago, Radio Inc. did a story, and they asked me to send in an article and a picture or whatever. So I sent it in, and it was me and Steve Smith and Tim Clark. Tim Clark, who is Asian. And they
He still is, by the way. I just like to.
Yeah. They corrected it, and I sent in the names and the titles and the picture, and when they printed the magazine, it said Kim Guthrie, Steve Smith, and Johnny Chang. And it's like, what, there's two Asians in radio and you can't keep them apart? Like, are you kidding me? And we've laughed, I mean, ha, 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 and thank you for giving me permission to tell the story, but it's like, you've got to be kidding. So the day that you don't think of that, I think, is the day we want to get to. And I love that story because I don't think, well, I'll put Tim in there because he's Asian. It was more like, no, I think of Tim as younger.
Right person for the job.
And he's really good. And so they're like, well, you didn't tell me he was Asian. You're like, that's great. Whatever.
You don't mind my saying, but there's the right person for the job, and I am 100% with that. But I will also tell you, to me, it is a tremendous badge of honor because the people I most respect in this business, for the most part, are, you know, three of you, for example. So I don't mind being a woman in leadership. I actually think it's a great time to be a female in leadership, and that there are some qualities that we have that have lacked in leadership for a long time, and it's our opportunity to be able to share those.
The only thing I would say is I do feel, and I didn't feel this for a while, an obligation to help other women. And I'm in a position to do that, and it makes me really happy that I can identify stars and that are deserving, not because they're women, but because they're great at what they do and ensure that they get ahead. And that makes me happy.
Whit?
Almost hate to ask this, but for the people in the room that know me, know I will. And to follow up on Dan's question a little bit, and maybe you could flip it to the B side, but we have a president that beat one of those B women, and nothing you've talked about today describes the president of the United States. Maybe you could just talk a few minutes about, is that going to be a leadership style that'll catch on? Is it a negotiating style that will catch on? I mean, what are we supposed to think about Donald Trump now, I guess is my question.
I think it's like the music business. It's a one-hit wonder. That's my thought. I think he's...
No comment.
That's it.
Okay, Whit, thanks for
Pretty
that
much
question.
I want to be everything he's not. Anything he is, I want to run the other way.
Yeah.
Okay, how about that?
In the few minutes left, I really have two things I'd like to ask, and I know we have a short period of time here, but the first thing I want to know is what excites you most about being in radio today? Weezie?
I truly believe that we are at a point where this is like potentially the greatest time ever. Audio is now the hottest thing on the planet. The introduction of smart speakers, what's happening with earbuds, what's happening just in podcasts and audio content, and the fact that audio has supplanted search is the next new thing. We have an unbelievable opportunity. TV viewership, cord cutting keeps plummeting. It's an opportunity for us to shift massive dollars into our space, and we just have to overcome the misconceptions that people's personal narratives don't match the truth about our business, and they're listening. NMI is a game changer potentially for us in the national space. I had some friends, co-workers at P&G the other day, and they're like, guys, game changer for your business. You can make bank with this tool. Every day, we're evangelizing and selling our medium, and every day we're finding people who are open ears. We need to be passionate and confident and excited about our future. We need to invest in our people and our content, and I hope that we're moving in a world where everybody can grow at mid-single-digit growth, and I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think anything is easy. I think it's going to be hard, but I think we have an opportunity that we can seize this moment and really take advantage of it. So I'm excited.
Kim?
Well, radio's free. It's a wonderful companion still. If you think about the 93% of Americans listening to radio, if you were to talk about any new startup that had a 93% penetration, it would be on the cover of the Wall Street Journal, and everybody would be out buying stock in that business. So never lose sight of that, and I think the ability to make an impact on your local communities, and it is a fun business. It is an entertainment business. It's a fairly cheap business to run. We don't have to print a newspaper and drive it to your door, and I think that makes it, that's going to give us, I think, a long runway. But it's that local community feel. It's the star power that you talked about, that these people are local celebrities, and that still gets me very excited. All the same things that you just said about the smart speaker and all the opportunities, voice technology, I think is helpful. But it's still a very vibrant, fun business. And every time someone says no one listens to the radio anymore, and I think of these concerts that we throw, we have a station in Tampa that's tiny, doesn't have great ratings, but we pack this thing every year with like 20,000 people, and we do it twice a year. Well, then how are these people hearing about the concert if no one's listening to the radio? So it's very, it feels passive sometimes, that people just don't give us credit, and never have. We've always been the underdog, probably always will be, but I still think it's a very exciting medium. It gets me out of bed in the morning. I love the business.
Beth?
I feel like we have a really exciting time for small markets, actually. We're on the verge of some major deregulation potentially, but that aside, to Weezie's point, I think there's this sort of, and to your point too, being a girl from Iowa, the smart speaker thing has done something very unique. I mean, I'm a girl from Missouri as well, and I can't tell you how many people I know who use their smart speakers wherever they are. They want to listen to their hometown radio station. I mean, it's just the craziest thing. And so the ability to reconnect with this part of who you really authentically feel that you are, I think is an exciting time. How do you monetize it? I don't know from that part. But what I'm really saying is that that in small markets, I think our ability to really, really connect and really make things happen exists at a level that is just virtually impossible because of fragmentation. When you're in New York or Chicago or Tampa, we can be that involved, and so I'm psyched about those possibilities.
Did anybody see the 60 Minutes interview of Paul McCartney? And if you didn't, Google it, where the woman interviewing him goes, "So, how do you learn about music?" And he goes, "The radio." She goes, "Radio? You're kidding. You listen to the radio?" He goes, "Yeah, the radio." Well, like satellite radio? No, the radio, the thing with the knob on it. And it's fabulous. And I use that opening presentations with, teams of people when we're doing group meetings. And you open that, follow it with the slide of, research with, media executives whose perceptions of who listens versus satellite radio or Pandora and Sirius, and it's like so out of whack. And it puts the elephant in the room and opens up the conversation. I totally advise it because we are too timid. We are too shy. We need to put it out there what the truth is and have the conversation because we can change their perceptions. But we can't do it if we sit back and act like we don't matter.
Well, country format, this format will recognize that we turn their songs into hits and we turn these people into stars. It's not happening in some of these other areas. I mean, you can't Google or listen to music that you don't even know exists. So to your point about exposing it, I think Vince Gill said it yesterday at the Ryman. You don't realize the role that you play in making us successful. And we can't ever underestimate that.
Well, unfortunately, our time is up. But I don't know about you sitting there. I will tell you, I am so honored to be sitting here with you, number one. And number two, thank you for helping us feel so good about being in radio today, because it's fantastic. And you are amazing leaders. And please join me in thanking them.